Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us to learn more about our Spain food and wine taste vacation. We have a couple of people on this call. My name is Chris Keys, and I head up our tour operations here at Taste Vacations and our sister company, Zephyr Adventures. And we also have on the line Jenny Fiddle. She's our tour host in Spain, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her shortly. So if you could, in preparation, just mute your microphone so the rest of the group won't hear any background noise. That will make it easier for everybody to hear. And then to save time, we have a question and answer period scheduled for the last part of the call. So as we go through this information, feel free to jot down questions you have and save them for the end. And so we're happy to answer those at the end of the call. And this is the first call that we've done of this type where we are going over one of our taste vacations with potential travelers. And so I'm going to send you a 1-minute survey after this call to get your feedback on what you thought of the call and what you found valuable or what you found not valuable. So thank you in advance for giving us some feedback on this call. So here's our format. I'm gonna take a few minutes to go give an overview of taste vacations in general. Jenny is then going to jump in and talk about our Spain trip specifically and some of the wonderful things that we have to offer on the trip. And then we'll open it up to questions and give you some answers. So I'd like to start off by just giving you a general overview of taste vacations. We created these taste vacations to celebrate food, wine, beer, and spirits in premier vacation destinations all around the world. So the unique experiences we instill into each tour ensure that your vacation is interesting, it's educational, it's inspiring, and most of all, it's fun. We focus on one or more of the following categories. And each area comes with its own set of experiences. For instance, our food tours, we may have cooking classes or demonstrations. We may have shopping at farmers markets, visiting local artisan producers such as olive oil mills or cheese farms, honeybee farms. We might have a cooking class at a chef's home, things like that. Wine tours, obviously we're going to have a lot of winery visits. We may have some vineyard walks, some food and wine pairing dinners, some blind wine tastings, talks with vintners, and more. For our beer tours, we have brewery visits, brew pub visits, again, blind tastings, beer pairing dinners, and educational sessions with brewers. And then on our spirit tours, we visit distilleries, we have educational tours, we have discussions with distillery staff, and more. So in the case of this Spain trip, we are focusing on two of these categories, food and wine. And so we have public dates such as the July date that we just had and our upcoming October 9th through 14th trip. And then we have private trips that you can arrange with dates that you choose with your own group and a minimum of 4 participants. We also just ran a private trip in July with 4 people, which was wonderful. The trips include, for the price, double occupancy lodging at nice hotels. They're usually 4-star hotels. All meals, unless otherwise noted on the tour itinerary. Sometimes we have a night off on your own, so you can have your own experiences and on a trip. It includes local transportation, all the organized culinary and drink experiences, and the professional services of a taste vacations host as your guide. And then oftentimes beer and wine is included, obviously in the tastings and then in the wine pairing dinners. And sometimes they're not. But, in this trip in Spain, we have wine included in 3 of the lunches and 3 of the 5 dinners of the tour. So basically, all you have to do is show up and have fun. Your tour hosts are usually fun, outgoing, and friendly professionals their primary goal is to make sure you have an outstanding vacation, make it as hassle-free and as fun and educational for you as possible. And they're with you from breakfast through dinner and introducing you to the food and drink experiences in your tour location and serving as your advisor, your guide, and as is often the case, your friend. And so Jenny, who is our tour host in Spain, is a Brit who owns a wine travel business based in Aro, Spain, which is sort of the epicenter of the wine area in La Rioja. And she's been guiding trips like this for over 10 years. She has quite a pedigree. She has a master's degree in viticulture and enology and has worked in several Spanish wineries. She's fluent in Spanish, Italian, and French, and obviously English. And she has passed the WSET, the WSET, they call it Level 2 and Level 3 awards in wines and spirits, and has recently tested for Level 4. So unless you're really into wine, you may not know what this means, but it's a big deal in the wine world. So she has a lot of qualifications, obviously, in addition to being a wonderful person. And you'll get to meet her in just a couple minutes. So when you book a Taste Vacation, we will send you a detailed itinerary. We'll send you a packing list, a pre-departure packet of information about the trip that includes background information about the area as well as practical travel information. Speaking of which, so specifically on this Spain trip, we meet you on this trip in the northern Spain town of Bilbao on the very first day of the trip. Either we pick you up at the airport or we meet you downtown, depending on when you've arrived, because oftentimes you arrive the night before. Bilbao has connecting flights from the U.S. Via Madrid, Paris, London, Frankfurt, a lot of other towns, but no direct flights from the U.S., but it's pretty easy to get to. On the last day of the trip, we return you to Bilbao in the afternoon in time to make mid-afternoon flights. There are really great ways to extend your time in Spain if you have the opportunity to and have that much vacation time. Great add-ons include spending an extra night or two in Bilbao, which is a great little city that has the Guggenheim Museum there, which is well worth a visit. It's a great old town, which is fun to visit as well. But a quick flight away is Barcelona or Madrid. You could also rent a car or fly to Portugal. Portugal is roughly 4 or 5 hours away by car. You could go up to France and the Pyrenees right over the border. Again, you would want to rent a car for that, but really great opportunities for extending the trip if you have the desire and the ability to do that. So the best times to do this trip are the May, June, and July, and then September and October. August is also okay, but it tends to get very hot, and that's when a lot of people are taking vacations in Europe, and so it can be crowded and hot. And then to travel to Spain, it only requires a passport, so it's pretty easy to enter. You may have seen on our website the itinerary for this trip, and I hope you did. We generally have a similar itinerary to that, but there are always potential for changes based on things that are out of our control. If restaurants close or if other opportunities arise, somebody changes their visiting hours or the dates you choose. Sometimes things aren't open on Mondays or Thursdays or whatnot. And so we have a little bit of flexibility in that itinerary. And basically, you're entrusting us to create an outstanding vacation for you. And so it's possible that we may take the liberty of making minor changes, and we'll always let you know about that if that is the case. And any changes we do make will improve your overall trip experience in general. So that's really it about the general steps. And I'm going to turn it over to Jenny now and introduce her so she can talk specifically about our trip.
Hi, well, this is Jenny here. I'd like to kind of speak a little bit about the overview of the Spain trip. We actually start off spending the first 2 nights up in the Basque coastal area, which is in and around San Sebastian area in northern Spain. San Sebastian is actually quickly emerging as one of the culinary capitals of the world. It actually has the most Michelin stars per square meter in the whole world. So many aspiring chefs have gone there to study how to cook. So naturally, these days, the focus of the tour, it focuses more on the food than the wine. And the tour really includes, amongst the following things, a wonderful picnic the first afternoon to really give you a taste of the flavors of the area, of such a fish such as tuna and anchovies, which is a speciality, sheep cheese, Iberian ham, and local wine. We also have a wonderful cooking demonstration and also another dinner in one of my favorite restaurants in the area, which has possibly the best wine cellar in the whole world. We really are spoilt for choice. The wine list is the size of an encyclopedia. And we also actually have a day visit over the French border to Saint-Jean-de-Luz to sample their world-famous macaroons and chocolates. So it's a good day to have a sweet tooth. We also have a lot of fun on the pinchos or the tapas tour. So pinto or tapas is the pincho is the word in Basque for tapas. It's kind of a tapas crawl because we spend one evening walking from tapas bar to tapas bar for dinner. So tapas aren't actually a type of food, but it's a way of eating food. I joke it's the Spain's national sport. It's not football here, it's soccer, it's eating food. So it's a bit like a mobile feast where you hop from bar to bar, and each bar has its own speciality. And of course, every speciality has to be accompanied by a local glass of wine. So it's a kind of a small portion of food served with a drink. Rather, back in the US, we might recognize tapas a bit more such as an appetizer or a hors d'oeuvre, but in Spain, once you start eating tapas, you don't stop until you're full. So pretty good fun activity. The next 3 nights then are spent in Spain's biggest wine area, which is called La Rioja, and we will actually naturally spend more time on the wine aspects for this part of the tour. But of course, all the good wines are going to be accompanied with some pretty awesome food as well. So this section of the trip normally includes some wine pairing lunches or tastings at big name wineries, such as Marqués de Riscal. So Riscal was designed by the Canadian architect Frank Gehry. He also designed the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. Expect a lot of titanium and quite a spectacular architecture. And also we've got traditional favourites such as family-run wineries such as Bodegas Muga and also Bodegas Baigorri, which is a gravity-fed winery. So we've got plenty of memorable tastings and meals at other stunning wineries. We call them bodegas here. So you might not have heard about some of the less famous names, but there's some amazing producers, including Viña Tondonia, Carlos San Pedro in a medieval cave 8 meters underground, and also Bilbaínas and Cune, which are some of the most traditional wineries in the region. We also have a very informal, it's an outdoor dinner and tasting. It's a family-run winery, Bodegas Goedal, and taking the spectacular 11th century walled town of La Guardia, which is a medieval hill town with amazing views of the valley, and also an optional visit to Dinastía Vivanco, which is a wonderful wine museum with the biggest corkscrew collection in the whole world. To give you a little bit about a snapshot of the history of La Rioja, it's basically wine has always been a vital part of Spain's history, and La Rioja is the actual most famous wine region in the whole of Spain. So it was actually populated by Phoenicians, followed by Carthaginians, then the Romans, then the Moors, and finally medieval crusaders all played a part in the area's history. It was down to the Romans that they made wine a part of their culture wherever they travelled. and La Rioja was certainly no exception. So there's still existing ancient Roman sites where the Romans used to tread their grapes in the vineyard, and they're dotted around the vineyards still today. The Basque area, by contrast, is an autonomous community within Spain and also within France. Part of the Basque country is in France. They actually have their own language, which isn't Latin-based, called Euskera. So you will see everything in Basque and Spanish in most places. The region and its people have always been without their own country and always fought for their own independence. So in 1978, following the dictatorship under General Franco, Euskadi, as the Basque country is known actually in Spain, was designated its own historical region within Spain and as part of the Spanish Constitution. So quite an interesting difference in culture and language. With regards to Spanish wine, while we're in the Basque area, we'll get to sample Chacoli, which is a lightly sparkling white wine produced by roughly about 17 wineries. So it's a very, very small production, and it's a very light, refreshing, spritzy white wine from the Hondarribia Zuri grape variety. And then in Rioja, there are nearly actually 1,000 wineries producing wine, and about 64,000 hectares of vineyards. So we're spoilt for choice. You never have to choose the same wine type. And all those wineries mostly follow the river Ebro, so beautiful valley. The wines of Rioja, mainly they are blends, but Tempranillo is the king of grapes, so the most common variety. While we're on tour, we'll actually learn about the difference between the styles or the classes of wine. So we have young wine with no Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva. And of course, get to sample plenty. Practice makes perfect. And then really wine is always wine. We have wine with lunch, dinner, and you'll actually find some of the hotels even have put out wine for breakfast. So it's not uncommon in the Spanish and Basque culture to drink wine with everything. Really, to give you an idea about Spanish cuisine, among the multitude of recipes that make up the varied cuisines of Spain, a few can be considered common to all or most of Spain's regions, such as the potato omelette, so tortilla de patata. There's many secretly guarded family recipes of potato and egg omelette. Also paella. They like doing various stews, so with sausage and white beans and lentils, but also very famous for their charcuterie, such as the embutido, so the cured meat, such as chorizo and morcilla, which is black pudding, blood sausage, and also jamón serrano, so the cured ham and cheeses, mainly sheep's cheese. There are also many dishes based on, as I said, beans, including chickpeas, which I think I forgot to mention, and soups. So lots of regional variations, and you don't need to travel too far for the distinct recipes to change from region to region. The regional variations are less pronounced as far as desserts go, but they do make a flan, which is like a flan custard or creme caramel, and some arroz con leche, which is rice pudding, if you weren't full enough already, and torrijas, which are almost like a little bit like French toast, and churros and madeleines are very good for the sweet tooth amongst us. And then really most of our dinners are sit-down affairs. Most restaurants don't even open until about 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. So it's quite good you can have a few tapas to keep you going, but in Spain they're fairly comparatively late in dining compared to the US. But a lot of good local choices to eat in the evening at lunchtime. So I'll pass over to Chris.
Thank you all for participating in the call today. As they say in Spain, adios, amigos.